Hello everyone, welcome to the 9th episode of Pure Grade Puroresu. Today we're going to be looking at Dragon Gate's two Truth Gate shows, the first from February 5th and the second from February 10th. And look, just got a few quick little things that I want to get out of the way. First of all, there have been so many shows coming out from Japan right now. So we've just had New Japan's New Beginning in Osaka show. Noah had their show with Kiyomiya defending against Kitamiya. All Japan's also had some of their Excite series shows coming out, and obviously there was this Dragon Gate, these two Dragon Gate shows. So look, I'm really under pressure to get out reviews because after this review of the two Dragon Gate shows, I'm going to go do the New Beginning in Osaka review, and that's going to be a bit late, and that's going to annoy people because most Puroresu fans are mainly New Japan fans. Then I also want to get that Noah review out. So look, the stress is building up. Also got stuff going on in my life that just makes me pretty busy. But you know what? We're just going to get right into it. So, actually, I just lied. I feel like I always do this. I always say, let's get right into it. Then I just fucking lie and just go off on some other little thing. But we've got to look at Dragon Gate's late January shows because they had sort of a three-man cup tournament. And this, at the time I was looking at the card, I was thinking, well, this is obviously just going to determine who's going to be the challengers for the Triangle Gate titles, and that ended up being the case. So we'll quickly go over that. So on one of the nights, we had an RED team versus Tribe Vanguard team. That was a pretty fun match. It was 3.25 stars. There were some fun spots with Shimizu accidentally attacking Ben K. I'm sort of getting annoyed with how this is going because it feels like it's the same sort of thing each time with him, how Shimizu hits Ben gets annoyed, Shimizu acts like, oh, it was an accident. So that's continued. And once again, everyone in RED left while Shimizu was celebrating his win in the ring despite all of that. There was a Mochizuki Dojo versus Maximum match. That was another very fun match. That was actually slightly better. That was 3.25 stars to about 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed that. It had nice energy and passion from everyone, especially the rookies. I didn't notice, but I Heart DG, which is basically the unofficial English translation for Dragon Gate. They mentioned that Dragon Kid had been left out of the maximum celebrations after their win, and I didn't notice that at the time, but obviously that's an ongoing story, so that's worth mentioning. There was also a Natural Vibes versus RED match. That was another fun match, 3 stars. KZ is still using that running uppercut as his finisher, and he got the win over Kanda. And look, his uppercuts and elbows and forearms, as you'll find out when I finally review the main event of the February 10th show, they're all fantastic. So that was a cool little finish. Maximum also, as I said, they earned themselves a Triangle Gate shot as a result of eventually winning this tournament. At the end of this review, I'm going to go over all the matches and shows that have been established from these few shows. So, look forward to me going over that at the very end. But yeah, the final for the three-man cup tournament was between RED, Maximum, and Natural Vibes, and obviously, as you already know, Maximum got the win. Ishida eliminated Horiguchi and Ben K, which is pretty massive because, it's a rookie getting to pin a veteran as well as a relatively big star. And once again, continuing the story of the Big Ben, fallout, Shimizu accidentally laid Ben K out, and that's really what cost RED the match. And then in the post-match, Shimizu and Eita got into a really heated post-match, and so it's pretty obvious that this thing is going beyond just Shimizu versus Ben K. It was actually Shimizu versus all of RED. And from these two, the February 5th and February 10th shows, we'll find out how that actually develops, this RED turmoil story. There was actually also even more tag team turmoil with Dragon Kid once again criticizing Maximum for house show losses, and this was obviously this made him come off as even more of a heel as he already has been throughout all these shows where he's come on and criticized Maximum, because this was after they won the three-man cup tournament itself. So it's your team just won the tournament. Why are you complaining about this? And so basically he criticized them again for the house show losses, but he wasn't going to criticize Ishida because he's like, oh, I realize how well you've done, because on that show Ishida was the one who got the pin to put them away. And Ishida seemed to insist that he could and would replace Dragon Kid as the main guy in Maximum's Triangle Gate challenging team. So yeah, that's going to be pretty interesting. Obviously, I don't think Ishida is on Dragon Kid's level, but I do think Ishida is really good. So, I'm excited to see more of him, especially if this story ends up with Dragon Kid getting kicked out of Maximum or deciding to leave or whatever. If that means Ishida can be elevated, then, I think that's going to be pretty cool. It's weird to think that Dragon Kid is being positioned so heavily as a heel right from the start of 2019, when at the very end of 2018, he was the big babyface going up against Eita, the mega heel, and defending his legendary mask against Eita's hair. So it's you finish 2018, the fans are meant to be all, in love with Dragon Kid. Oh, he's one of the veterans from Dragon Gate who's stayed on since the Toryumon days. He's still here, he's still got his mask, and he's vanquished, well, not vanquished, but he's defeated the evil Ater from RED, the evil heel stable, and he's made him shave his head, but now he's criticizing all of his teammates. It feels weird, but I guess we just have to wait and see where the storyline is actually going. Obviously, a story ends up coming here where it's going to be Dragon Kid versus Naruki Doi in singles, and again, I'm going to go over that at the very end of the show, where I look forward to the matches that have been set up in early and mid-March. But look, I think that's all the little intro things that I wanted to go over. So look, let's just get right into the February 5th Kuroken Hall show. So the opening match, and look, if you've been following Pure Grade Pro Wrestling for a while, you know that I like to, if not completely avoid the opening card of a lot of shows, I'll skip over them. And this isn't as bad as with my New Japan previews and reviews, where I just totally don't care about the undercard because I've been watching New Japan for so long. With Dragon Gate, I actually did sit down and watch all of these undercard matches, but there's not too much I can really say about them. So for this first match, we had Gamma, Hiroshi Yamato, K-Ness, and Mondai Ryu versus Masaki Mochizuki, Minoura, what's his first name? Kota Minoura, yeah. So versus Mochizuki, Minoura, Yoshioka? What's Yoshioka's first name or last name? Oh god, I can't remember. Anyways, look, I've messed this up. Yeah, look, it's Gamma, Hiroshi Yamato, K-Ness, and Mondai Ryu versus Mochizuki, Minoura, Yoshioka, and Watanabe. I couldn't remember all of their first names. I just wrote down in my notes their surnames. You know what? You're going to have to sue me for that because I can't be bothered going back and editing all this. So, it was adorable because, as I always find it adorable whenever Dragon Gate, whenever Dragon Gate has, like, for their first match, they always, like, bring out the veterans. They always bring out, like, a kid or, like, a few kids from the audience and sort of say, oh, what's your name? What's your favorite wrestler? And then they allow them to, hit the bell. It's always adorable. So that was pretty cool. And what made this even cooler was that one of the kids, he mentioned that his favorite wrestler was KZ, and then KZ happened to be up in the commentary booth, up in the balcony, and he heard, and so he leaned over and waved to the kid, and the kid got really excited. So, that was pretty adorable. Anyways, back to this match itself. Look, opening match, it was 2.5 stars, fine exchanges. One of the, I guess, plot points of this match was that everyone was stealing Hiroshi Yamato's X-Strike, and I've commented before on how his X-Strike comes off as very comedic in Dragon Gate, as opposed to, like, Noah, and I think it was 0-1, where I've seen him, where it's, I guess, not treated as like a big, evil, like, oh, this move's going to destroy me, but it's like, it's treated as a genuine move. But in Dragon Gate, the crowd just loves it, and here in Dragon Gate, all the other wrestlers loved it because everyone was doing their own sort of variation of it. So that was pretty fun. It was also fun just watching Mochizuki lead his dojo boys, because as I understand it, because I wasn't exactly following Dragon Gate at this time, but apparently the story was that all the dojo boys, they weren't, like, they were the ones pushing for it to be a stable, and Mochizuki was sort of just like, oh yeah, I don't really want to do this, but if you guys really want me to lead this, stable, then whatever, I don't mind. And look, I could be totally wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the story. And so it's cool to see Mochizuki here in this scenario, sort of being like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to lead these boys, even though I didn't really want to at the start. There was a big win for Yoshioka, rolling up K-Ness after they traded some, very quick and smooth near falls for a while. So this was yet another rookie getting a win over an established guy. And you'll remember, obviously, 4 minutes ago when I mentioned how it was Ishida who pinned Horiguchi and Ben K. So, you've got one veteran there and you've got one big star. So that's sort of continuing this story here of the youngsters sort of, having their rising, I guess, their coming out party with Yoshioka pinning K-Ness. And even though K-Ness obviously isn't like a big star, he's been there since the early Toryumon days, so he's still considered, a veteran. And it was cool to see the young guy, get the win over the established guy. The next match was Kagetora and Kai versus Kanda and Sakamoto. This was probably the worst match on the show. We had a typical RED jump attack into an arena brawl right at the start. Kai was very, scarred on the back left side around his rib, which I noticed. I hadn't really noticed that before, and to be fair, I don't follow him super closely, and I haven't followed All Japan too closely in a while. But I was wondering, Kai, have you been in some death matches or something? Why are you so scarred up? Anyways, look, the match had some fine exchanges. The only really interesting thing were the exchanges between Kagetora and Sakamoto at the very end, and this led to Sakamoto getting a win. I can't remember what the move was, but as I said, this match wasn't, super memorable, so hey, I couldn't remember how it ended, Again, sue me. Add this to the second case of lawsuits against me for not doing my proper, due diligence. But look, the one thing to remember is that Kagetora is always good on these shows. It doesn't matter if he's only going out there for 10 minutes, he's still putting in quite a lot of effort. It's just a shame that he doesn't get as much time in the ring. I guess it's just sad that he's not doesn't get pushed as a single star, at least, for the last few months. He's in tag matches, and so he's constantly going in the ring, giving a good performance, but then he has to tag out, and so, then we don't get all that greatness from him. Anyways, look, match was, 2.25 stars, wasn't anything too special. Next match was UT versus Yoshida. So this was the first relatively important match on the show, and you could tell that because in Japan, singles matches are very rare. So when you see a random one, it's like, oh, hey, maybe I should, sit up a bit more for this. It's not like you're going to get like some major storyline developments necessarily, but it is worth considering because, usually Dragon Gate, New Japan, Noah, All Japan, they throw most of their guys into multi-man tag matches. So when you get a singles match, you have to say, hey, what are they trying to get at here? And so this match, Yoshida, he's a big monster. He's big, stupid, dumb, goofy monster. He dominates UT for pretty much the entirety of the match just due to his size. We get some big attacks from him while he brings out some submission holds whenever he can. It was very cool. I believe it's called Bien Love segment, where Yoshida worked hard to sell the danger of the hold before finally getting to the ropes. And this is the move which I've previously described as the Rings of Saturn. If you know what that move is, look it up. It's a pretty cool move. Yoshida's strikes and power moves came back for a while, gave him control and gave him some pretty close near falls. The entire time, UT just has he's just a great seller. He's one of those guys where maybe it's just because he's genuinely so small. I think he's only 5'4", and he just looks really skinny. Where it's maybe is this guy really a good quote unquote pro wrestler, or is he just very easy to sympathize with because he just looks like a guy who shouldn't be in the ring? But then I see all of Yoshida's, then I see all of UT's crisp little movements and transitions into holds, and I'm like, no, this guy is just genuinely a good wrestler. Good selling, good holds, good movements. He's got it all. Yoshida hit a pineapple bomber lariat, but his arm was so hurt due to the Bien Love that he couldn't really go for a pin on UT following that. And then once again, a rookie pins an established guy as UT rolled Yoshida up for the win. So this is, look, as we can already tell, we've got Ishida on the three-man cup shows. We just had Yoshioka, and now we've got UT. It's clear that Dragon Gate is going for a story of all the rookies, finally rising up, and this is going to be a story for the entirety of the show. And I have to say, I really love this approach. I like how Dragon Gate, as opposed to New Japan or, whatever other promotions, they have a really well-established rookie or a young lion. Then they're like, okay, we're going to send you away for 1 to 2 years. And the crowds, they're totally going to forget about you. And it's going to be, oh, it's cool. It's cool when he's finally back. But they're going to lose a lot of that momentum that they had as young lions or rookies. But here in Dragon Gate, they're just no, we're just going to have them, work their way up the card and slowly start putting away established guys so as to build themselves up as actual contenders in the promotion. And I really appreciate that idea compared to, as I said, New Japan. But anyways, this match, even though it was decent, I was at 2 3/4 stars. As I've said before, I do like Yoshida. I do like his goofy sort of style, and I like how he does genuinely have some pretty obliterating strikes and power moves when he wants to. And as I've already said enough, UT is pretty awesome. He's definitely one of my favorite rookies. It's so difficult trying to rate them because I really like Watanabe, I like Skywalker, I like Ishida, and I like UT. I definitely think that UT is really coming close to supplanting Skywalker in number one. And before that I had UT at maybe third or fourth, but just watching more of him, I'm like, dude, this guy is so crazy talented. He's definitely going to be a big guy in future. Well, actually, I can't say that. I hate when people are like that, when there's oh, this wrestler is relatively good, he's going to be big in future. But I do get that feeling with UT, but I wonder if his size is going to hold him back, because even though it's Dragon Gate and everyone's already 5'9" or 10 at most, I still feel that height disadvantage is going to work against him. But look, my point being, UT was awesome, Yoshida was alright, fine match, let's move on. The next match was one that I was really looking forward to, and sadly to say, I was very disappointed. This was the Toryumon versus T2P 20th anniversary match. So I explained this to the best of my amateur knowledge in my Dragon Gate review of the Open the New Year Gate shows, where I sort of previewed this. But obviously, you probably know what Toryumon is. It was the original promotion established by Ultimo Dragon, which became Dragon Gate. But there was also another Toryumon promotion with the second batch of rookies over in Mexico, and so that became T2P. And look, I've done absolutely base level research, and I don't even know what the hell T2P stood for. But you know, look, third lawsuit against me. I really thought that this was going to be sort of like I knew it was going to be a crowd pleaser, but I really hoped it was going to be a crowd pleaser in the typical sort of Toryumon Dragon Gate multi-man tag style. But it really ended up just being mostly like, calm sort of stuff for the fans to laugh at a lot. So look, I'll just get into it. So first thing that really annoyed me was the audio was muted on the Dragon Gate network entrances. So this is meant to be a fan pleasing match, but you can't even, like, for those at home who weren't there live, we don't even get the enjoyment of hearing the crowd react to all these wrestlers that they come out, especially the T2P guys who came out in all their old attire. Like Yoshino came out in a wig from his old days when he had longer hair. There was also Taru who was returning, and we didn't get to hear the pop because when we heard the pop at the previous Korakuen Hall show when he was announced as appearing on the show, everyone was like, whoa, that was crazy. But here we didn't get to hear the bloody pop because the audio's muted. Sachi Hoko, he came out as Sachi Hoko Machine number 2. We also didn't get to hear the pop for him coming out, and I haven't seen him, but what I believe is also his old attire back then. And also Yashi came out as Yashini, and didn't get that pop either. Look, I'll stop talking about the pops, we'll get into it. So, the first thing I remember here was Taru and Fuji. Sorry, I've been calling him Taru, it's Toru, right? Let me check my notes real quick. After consulting my notes, it was in fact Toro, not Taro. That's the 4th lawsuit. Anyways, let's move on. So, Toru and Sumo Fuji, God, I just called him Sumo Fuji. I've been watching too much of the Toryumon shows on the Dragon Gate Network. Toru and Don Fuji, they were going at each other all match long. Again, I didn't do my research. Maybe there was a bit of history there. I'm unfamiliar with it, but the crowd really got into that, and it was pretty funny. Like, they'd randomly go after each other even when they weren't like directly in the ring, when they weren't the legal men. That was pretty funny. There was a lot of comedy at the start, also involving Sachi Hoko. He was, like, in his current run in Dragon Gate, he isn't played up too much as a joke. Like, he does get a lot of comedy spots, but here in this match, he got a lot of comedy spots. So I don't know if that was sort of referencing how maybe he used to be a big comedy wrestler back in the day when he was Sachi Hoko Machine. I don't know, 5th lawsuit for me not doing my research. Fine exchanges throughout. Another funny moment was when Yoshino, his wig came off, and so like he immediately had to run under the ring to put it back on. And at the time, the crowd treated it as if the hair was as if his hair was equivalent to some famous luchador's mask. And so they all gasped and freaked out when their hair came off. So that was pretty funny. We eventually got some, big run-ins and move tradings, but it came a bit too late, and, they weren't as impressive as I would have hoped for, I guess. Sachi Hoko, he worked well, which is after he had been playing the one who's been dominated for so long, but sadly it was he who ended up eating the fall. So yeah, this was a fine match. I expected it to go longer, and as I've already said, I expected the performances to be a bit more serious. I was hoping for the typical car crash style that we're used to, but I guess you look at the people in this match and they're mostly veterans. Like, obviously, Horiguchi, Susumu, Yoshino, they can still go, but the others are sort of more on the broken down side. Obviously, they're nowhere near as broken down as like other veterans, around their age. Like, you compare it to like the New Japan dads, even though I think the New Japan dads are actually, a bit older. But yeah, I have to say it was fun. It was at least fun watching the audience themselves have fun, because they're the ones who are more accustomed to all these wrestlers. So I enjoyed it from that extent, but I was still, pretty disappointed. I gave this 2.5 stars. In the post-match, Toru, he shook everyone's hand on the opposing member side, but then there was sort of a bit played up where he wouldn't shake Fuji's, and then it was like, oh, we're gonna fight. Oh nah. Then they end up having a hug and a hand raise afterwards. So ended on good terms. So that was pretty nice. Next match, this was the first properly good match of the show. This was also one I was really looking forward to, and sadly, I have to say I was disappointed, but it was still a good match. This was Shun Skywalker versus Benkei. So, the build-up to this match was Skywalker has just come off winning the rookie tournament in Dragon Gate, and he called out Benkei because he was like, hey, Benkei, you're the rookie who surpassed all the other rookies, and I can't consider myself, the best rookie in Dragon Gate until I've beaten you. And I looked back, and it turns out that these two guys had their first match against each other. So they really do have history. They come from the same rookie class, and here they're having their first match to determine, who is the best rookie. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, I know that Dragon Gate's sort of playing up on the idea of all these rookies starting to do well against the veterans and the established stars, but would they really have Benkei, who, really seems to be someone that they're putting effort into for the future? Would they really have a mere rookie beat him here? And look, spoilers, that's what ended up happening. So the match starts and Skywalker is hitting his aerial attacks pretty much right away. Benkei's power sort of allows him to gain some control and start working Skywalker over. Then Skywalker just goes right back to the aerial moves. He hits a beautiful rope walk moonsault to the outside. I always love when he does that. I always think, oh geez, this guy's about to slide. He's going to fall on either one side, which is going to be like a very sloppy looking like splash onto Benkei, or he's just going to fall back into the ring. He always hits it perfectly. Skywalker really is, like, when I think of someone who's so, like, I have to compare him to like Osprey, and maybe that's putting Osprey down a bit because that guy's phenomenal, but I think they're actually about similar ages, Skywalker and Osprey. I think Osprey is probably no more than like 3 years older than Skywalker. Anyways, enough New Japan talk. Point being, Skywalker's aerial moves, always very, very impressive. There was a really cool strike exchange where Skywalker was managing to actually rock Benkei quite a few times. And, Benkei, he's the guy who's played up as the real stocky, muscly dude who can outstrike. But here you've got this really skinny, high flyer, Skywalker, and he's getting the better of Benkei. Benkei's strikes became more vicious, and he brought out some more big power moves as he was realizing, oh, okay, this skinny dude, this high flyer, he actually has, some big effort and power behind him, so I really need to, up my game. There were some big knee stomps from Skywalker. He was doing that, I'm pretty sure it was the Ibushi sort of thing where he goes for the moonsault but turns it into a knee stomp, looks brutal. He was really targeting Benkei's abdomen at the time. There was a great bicycle kick and then an ashla and then a top rope moonsault, and that gave Skywalker the win. So yeah, this rookie onslaught continues as another rookie earns themselves a big win over an established Dragon Gate guy. Look, I did enjoy this match, but I guess I'll just go into my criticisms. I guess the first half, and like, isn't that how every criticism of a Japanese wrestling match goes? It's like, oh yeah, the first half wasn't interesting, but the second half was really good. So it's like 3.25 stars, which is, for the record, what I'm giving this match. But I guess my point is that the first half, it felt sort of disjointed, how I was like, okay, Skywalker's in control, then Benkei's in control, then Skywalker's in control. And then they sort of just, I don't want to say they dallied around, like their interactions were still interesting, but it wasn't, super exciting for the first half. And then it was the second half where suddenly we were getting big moves sort of out of nowhere, and I didn't really feel like anything was properly being built up. It was just, a big move after a big move. And I've seen some people say how this was like, a really great match, one that's going to be remembered for the ages, when we're going to be looking back on Skywalker's eventual rise to fame. This is going to be the match where we first looked at him coming out of his shell. But I didn't think it was that great. As I said, good, 3.25 stars, that's good, but I just didn't think it was that great. Still, this was the best match thus far on the show, and look, I couldn't be too negative towards it because of that one reason. Obviously, because of all the RED turmoil and infighting, I was also wondering how Benkei's loss here to a rookie would impact his standing with RED and Shimizu. So I was like, he just lost to Skywalker. Is this gonna like escalate RED and Shimizu being like, oh, you're not good enough, and is Benkei gonna end up going singles from that? We obviously didn't get an answer on that show, but that's what my mind was thinking. That's when I'm like, I've got to consider this at the back of my mind. Even though it was a good match, this is the thing I should be thinking about. How is Benkei impacted by this relating to RED? The next match on the show was a pretty good one. So this was the maximum team of Dragon Kid, Kaito Ishida, and Jason Lee versus Puck, Eita, and Shimizu. This wasn't the, I guess, typical Dragon Gate car crash style of multi-man tag that I was hoping for, but it was still, a pretty decent match. With Ishida being in here, I was thinking, okay, it looks like Dragon Gate's just going full on with the story of the rookies, beating the old guys, as I've been going over and over and over all throughout this review. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure Ishida's going to end up getting the pin here. I couldn't really figure out who had pinned because I was like, Park, Eita, Shimizu, and I was thinking, it makes the most sense to pin Shimizu because of all the turmoil involving him and RED. And again, spoiler, that's what ended up happening. I'm a genius, I can predict all this shit. So anyways, the match started, so Ishida was in first. He got off some offense, but then he was getting worked over by all of the RED members. Then we really quickly moved into the constant team run-in spots and big move trading. Like in Dragon Gate, they usually spend, like in their bigger multi-man tag matches, they usually spend like maybe 10 to 15 minutes of the really basic exchanges before everyone's like, okay, tags don't matter, everyone's running in, you're running in, you're running in, you're hitting a dive, you're hitting a dive, you're hitting a suplex, you're hitting a lariat. But yeah, they moved into that really quickly in this match for some reason. But look, it paid off. We got some great power moves from the much larger Shimizu against all the smaller opponents. Some great strikes from Ishida. That dude always has some great strikes, especially his kicks. His kicks are always very stiff when, like, he usually has his opponent on his knees and he delivers some very stiff kicks right to their chest, or I guess abdomen. And like it looks really stiff. I'm wondering, like, okay, are you holding back at all on these, or do you just trust your fellow, your colleague workers to just take these shoot kicks? Because yeah, pretty stiff. Park had some really fluid movement. He was on the, I'll say, on the this February 5th show, and obviously on the February 10th show, he was doing a lot more to impress me than he'd be doing on the January Open the New Year Gate shows. So yeah, he was, very crisp in his movement all around the ring, and as expected, Ishida ended up getting the win. So what happened was Eita accidentally super kicked Shimizu, which allowed Ishida to roll him up from a head scissors hold to get the win. This was a pretty short match. It only came in at like 9 minutes, but it was pretty enjoyable for that time. As I said, Dragon Gate, they decided to sort of cut out the fluff here. They did a few opening exchanges, then they went right to the car crash style. That was really good. So yeah, only a short match, but I gave this 3 stars. And again, guys, 3 stars is decent. It's like, hey, this is a good match. You should, if you want to enjoy yourself for, the allotted amount of time, check out this match. And what ended up coming out of this match was obviously more RED turmoil, because basically up until this point, it had just been Shimizu always accidentally hitting Ben K. I'm pretty sure before this match, we didn't have any other instances of other RED members accidentally turning on each other, to use for lack of a better term. But here it was Eita who turned on Shimizu, accidentally, obviously. Well, at least that's what we think, when he accidentally super kicked him. So we're finally getting a bit of development on the Shimizu versus Ben K story, with now it seems like, we're going to get Eita versus Shimizu. And obviously, this would also develop on the February 10th show. But guys, hold on, we're getting to there. Because right now, we're going to go into the main event of the February 5th show, which was a triple threat between KZ, Naruki Doi, and Yamato. Now, on paper, that sounds awesome. I really wish this was a match that was, I guess, treated a bit more seriously. I guess if it was treated more seriously, it wouldn't just be on a random Kuroken show. It probably would have been on, a bigger show, because these guys are all some of my favorite wrestlers in Dragon Gate. It took me a while to get on the bandwagon of Naruki Doi, but I really enjoy him now. And obviously, Yamato's awesome, KZ is awesome. And look, this ended up being my match of the night. I gave this, sadly, only like 3.5 stars, 3.25 to 3.5 stars. And I know people probably think, man, you just fucking hate Dragon Gate and all of its wrestlers. But as I said, I enjoyed this match. It was my match of the night. There are a few moments where it sort of lost me, but look, I'll just go into it. So, obviously the story here is that KZ has pinned both of these guys in tag matches, and then he basically used his wins over them to justify his own challenge for Puck's Dreamgate title. And then both guys were sort of like, oh, we don't like how you've beaten us, and now you've used that as an opportunity to promote yourself. We want a chance to redeem ourselves. So that led to this triple threat match. And I had a theory where, and obviously I should have known, at the time I thought it was unlikely. Well, I knew it was unlikely, and in retrospect, I should have known it was absolutely impossible. But I was thinking maybe here in this match, Doi ends up pinning Yamato, or Yamato ends up pinning Doi, and that way they sort of, they would also technically have a win over KZ, because they might not have pinned him or submitted him, but they would have beaten him in a match by way of pinning the third man, and then they could have squeaked themselves into a Dreamgate match with Park and KZ, and then you could have got the title off Park onto, Doi or Yamato, and then that would have led to KZ having to fight longer throughout the year to finally get the Dreamgate title, which I thought was a cool idea. Maybe some of you guys do as well, but obviously I should have known, no, this match was just to continue building up KZ as being Dragon Gate's 2019 breakout star. And because this match was just set up to build up KZ, both guys would end up targeting KZ for the majority of the match. So there were usually never any pairings of just pure Yamato versus Doi. It was usually always KZ versus Doi or KZ versus Yamato, which in the audience's mind is, always making them remember, okay, KZ's the guy to keep in focus here. The other guys keep interchanging, but KZ is the main focus. At one point, Yamato ended up injured out on the outside for a bit. It was, to me, it was unclear whether he was genuinely injured. Like, it seemed he'd pulled like his groin or his thigh, because he was constantly referring to it for like the first few minutes once he got back into the ring. But obviously, no news came out like, oh, Yamato's got a groin injury, he's out for like 3 months. So, hey, Yamato, you got me with your gosh darn selling there. He also seemed like way less energetic and mobile at the time, but yeah, I guess that was just genuinely good selling. With this being a triple threat match, there are a few moments where we'd get some alliances between a mixture of the pairs. So there was one moment where Yamato asked Doi for some help with a suplex, but Doi, pretty quickly turned on him and actually helped KZ suplex him. And there was also a moment where Doi was looking to team up with KZ. I believe I believe Doi had like put Yamato down, and he was like, "Oh, KZ, go up for a frog splash, my man." But then he turned on KZ right before then. So those sort of moments are sort of cheeky. Hey, these Dragon Gate wrestlers, they know how to that's the psychology. People say Dragon Gate doesn't have psychology. Look at them. They're pretending to work with each other and then turning on them. That's the best damn gosh darn psychology I've ever seen in a match. Eventually, as is usual with all of the big Dragon Gate matches, we move from the more sporadic big spots into more, connected exchanges, as I like to call the car crash formula. KZ was really good at just looping exchanges together, where he'd go from targeting Yamato right into targeting Doi, almost seamlessly. We got a few cool three-man based exchanges coming out so that we could involve all three guys, because earlier it usually just been two guys facing off with one on the outside. Obviously, yeah, as I've said, it was never KZ because, Dragon Gate want you to focus on this guy. They're saying, hey, this KZ dude, we want to make a fucking star out of him, so he's not going to be on the outside. He's always going to be the center of attention. There was a great series of exchanges between KZ and Yamato, just throwing strikes back and forth, and then KZ got a cradle pin on him for the elimination, and then Doi, crafty little Doi, he was like, okay, I'm going to poach this idiot, because KZ, I guess, was maybe, a mixture of exhaustion, I guess, happiness from, like, putting Yamato away, because then Doi pounced on him, went right after him right away. KZ had no time to celebrate his win over Yamato or even think, okay, how am I going to face Doi, because Doi was already going right after him. Doi brought out a big series of, like, really impactful power moves, and I just loved how quickly and seamlessly he was able to tie them all together. Like, from one moment he'd be, suplexing KZ over him, and then he'd be running off the ropes and hitting, like, a really, like, quick, slick little strike. It was just really cool. That's the stuff that has really drawn me to Naruki Doi. I guess before I really understood him, I didn't really understand what differentiated him from all the other wrestlers in Dragon Gate who have practiced this run and car crash style, but I guess I just really love how creative his offense is. Like, the suplexes and the strikes that he's bringing out, they do feel unique compared to all the other wrestlers on the roster. One thing that really took me out of the match was that there was a bit of awkwardness with KZ escaping from Doi's muscular bomb. And so, like, the idea was that Doi was going to drop down as if he's executing the move perfectly, but KZ was meant to jump out and land on his feet. But instead, KZ landed on his, butt with his feet out, and it looked really awkward because then KZ had to get up, run away from Doi off the ropes, and then hit Doi with, I believe it was just an uppercut or an elbow or something. And from that moment, the crowd was just totally zapped out of it. Like, they were buying into the moment where KZ was all trapped up and locked in Doi's muscular bomb, but then when they botched KZ escaping, they just couldn't regain that atmosphere and that drama. So that was a real shame, and sadly that did weigh down my opinion of the match a bit, because the match had been good, and then it was starting to get great, and then at that moment it just, as I said, it just took all the life out of it, and I guess it just felt really deflating for those final few minutes, because I think it was only, I believe I read at least, it was only 4 minutes difference between when KZ pinned Yamato and when he eventually ended up pinning Doi, and it felt way longer, and that's not a criticism, that's just because I at least for the first part of it, I was really buying into the drama of Doi just trying desperately to put KZ away. It felt like, a real big epic. I was like, wow, that was only 4 minutes. I would have expected, like, I guess, like, immediately afterwards, I would have said, oh yeah, 6 minutes. But, thinking back on it now, I was like, damn, wasn't that like 10 minutes away from when he put Yamato away to when he put Doi away? Because, as I said, Doi is just working really hard to put KZ away, and KZ was bumping like crazy. It just felt really good. Anyways, let's move on from this. KZ, he continued basically hitting all of his elbows and uppercuts, and it felt like any single one of them could finish the match, because we've seen him use that uppercut, and I think also the rolling, or like the sliding uppercut, or like a rolling elbow to put, I know at least Yoshino away, and I think he also would have put either of Doi or Yamato away on one of the tag matches in the New Year Gate series. So every time he hit one of those, and again, he's getting great impact on all of them, I'm just thinking to myself, oh shit, any one of these could just knock Doi down and KZ could get the win right then and there. But what ended up happening was KZ instead knocked Doi down. So he did, his strikes did work. He knocked the big Doi down, but he then hit a pair of frog splashes. And apparently he calls the frog splash KZ time. And so for the longest time, KZ time, longest time, I was wondering why KZ would get to the top rope and he'd yell out, "It's KZ time." And obviously, back when I've been watching him, before this year, he was, I guess, more of a bit more of a comedy wrestler, and the joke would always be, oh, he's going to yell out KZ time, and then he's going to get stopped by someone on the inside the ring. And so I never knew what KZ time was. Like, was it a move? Was it just him saying, hey, I'm going to hit a cool move? Hey, I'm awesome, but I guess, hey, KZ time is the name of his frog splash, which for the record is a fucking awful name. Like, you're going to call your move KZ time. Like, what if, like, I feel like I always make New Japan comparisons, but what if Okada, instead of calling it the Rainmaker, it was like, this is the Okada time, or the Okada's time. Anyways, KZ, you're a great wrestler. You need to change the name of that frog splash. It needs to be a move that somehow more relates to the frog splash, you know? Because when I think of KZ time, I don't immediately, connect that with a frog splash. When I think of the high fly flow, I think, oh yeah, a high fly, it's a high flying move. That's what connects me with a frog splash, KZ, look, just work that out and we'll be all, good as gold, okay? So yeah, good match to finish off, I guess, what was like an alright show. I gave the match itself, like I said, like 3.25 to 3.5 stars. The overall show I would have given like 6 out of 10. It was an alright show, nothing was really bad except for maybe that match with Kagetora against, what was it, Sakamoto and Kanda, I think. The real interesting stuff was, I guess it sounds a bit, mean, like, hey, the real interesting stuff was the non-wrestling stuff, but it really was, because in the post-match, first of all, RED tensions continued, because what happened was a 4-way 4v4v4v4, I'll say that a million times, match was set up. So we're going to have RED versus Tribe Vanguard versus Natural Vibes versus Mochizuki Dojo. So, hey, look, Maximum, you've been kicked out. You've been replaced by the amazing rookies of Mochizuki Dojo, because obviously all the rookies ended up getting their, they ended up winning their matches on the show. So they came out, and this was originally when RED, Tribe Vanguard, and Natural Vibes were setting up a match, and then they introduced themselves, the Mochizuki Dojo that is, and they were like, hey, we've, proved ourselves to be able to pin all you guys, so we want to be in. And Mochizuki himself isn't going to be in the match, which is going to be really fun, because we're just going to have, a bunch of really eager, passionate, young high flyers to throw into this match. So that's going to be really good. And, continuing the RED tensions, as if that isn't already, being focused on enough in all these Dragon Gate shows, Aita insisted that he wouldn't allow Big Ben, he wouldn't allow Shimizu and Ben K to be in the RED team. And so I would go over exactly like all 16 of the members in this match, but look, as I said, I'm going to do all that, looking forward to the future matches at the end of this review. So look forward to that. So yeah, as I said, all right show. It was exciting to see all the rookies get pushed really, well, I guess not super strong, but relatively strong. You usually don't see rookies getting wins over established guys. And then we saw pretty much every rookie on the show get a big win. And, KZ's push continues being really strong. Not only had he beaten Doi and Yamato in tag matches, he's now beaten them, directly in a, I guess, is it still a singles match? I guess because it's 1-4. Well, you know what I mean. He defeated both of them, pinned both of them. Yamato, he got more of a, I guess, a cheapish sort of win because it was a roll-up. But, he still, dominated him with strikes right before putting him away. And he really, got a genuine win over Doi. So, look, you can't say that KZ isn't being pushed to the fucking moon right now. Now, this brings me to the February 10th show from Hakata Star Lanes. Now, when I was sort of previewing this, as I've already said on my previous Dragon Gate show, Hakata Star Lanes, I thought they were actually just going to have some repairs going down, but turns out the entire thing's being demolished or shut down. So I was thinking to myself, oh, maybe it's going to be for the Olympics, but no, it's just totally being shut down. So, that's a shame. Apparently, Dragon Gate had been going there for like 20 years, so that'd be, all the way back when they're Toryumon. And obviously, whenever I think of Dragon Gate, I always associate them with Hakata Star Lanes, because I can't think of any other promotion that has so many shows there and so many big shows. So, yeah, this is the final show, and I guess I'll just give the show rating overall. I'll say this is a 6 out of 10, and now I know what you guys are thinking. Okay, the first show, Lewis, we can understand giving that a 6 out of 10, but this one, with that main event, we're not having it. And guys, don't worry, I thought the main event was amazing. I'm going to get to that, but look, we'll run through this undercard as we always do in typical Lewis fashion. So, first match, we got Sachihoka Boy, Jason Lee, Dragon Dyer, Kaito Ishida versus Gamma, Mondai Ryu, K-Ness, and Yashi. Look, guys, opening matches, fuck them, I'm being bad luck Fale for today, because who cares about these? I'll just give my, very brief thoughts. So, everyone was basically hitting their signature spots. Dragon Dyer is still a bit awkward, but he still has some really cool spots that he pulls out. So he goes from sort of fumbling around, but then he pulls off a really like slick, I don't know, like head scissors into like a Frankensteiner sort of move. So I'm really confused with this guy. Is he meant to be someone who's super green, or is he like the next coming of Dragon Kid and Ultimo Dragon? I just don't know. We got the usual, constant run-in spots expected from Dragon Gate, but it wasn't really at the same level, since here we had a mixture of the veterans and the young guys. And obviously that's not to say the young guys aren't amazing, because they can be, but this isn't the level of like BB Hulk and Shingo and Yoshino running in. It's the likes of Gamma and Mondai Ryu and Jason Lee and Sachihoko Boy. Although Jason Lee is, I shouldn't have included Jason Lee there because he's probably the best wrestler in this group. He deserves a bit more respect. Anyways, we got the finish when K-Ness. Now I just call this the Rolling Death Cradle because that's what it's called in Tekken. He hit that on Jason Lee, and so that was really interesting because Jason Lee, he's not really considered a rookie. He's not on the same level. He's not on the same lower level as Ishida or Skywalker because he's actually a major guy. He's held a title with Maximum. But it was surprising to see K-Ness get the win over him, especially since Jason Lee's just signed, full time with Dragon Gate. And I was thinking maybe this is Dragon Gate trying to sort of make amends for having all of their veterans drop falls to the young guys on the February 5th show. So here they give K-Ness, a veteran, a win over a younger star, Jason Lee. That was my thinking. Anyways, fine match, all right exchanges. It was a typical opener. I gave this 2.25 stars. If you watch this, you'd probably enjoy it, and it's not like it was a bad match, even though I basically gave it, 2.25 stars, but it's just, nothing special. Your opinion will be very heavily divided on the Stalker Ichikawa versus Don Fuji match, because it depends on how you feel about Ichikawa, I enjoy him, even though his comedy, he's sort of like Yano, where it's okay, you've got some good comedy spots, but you don't really ever switch it up. But I did think this was a fun little match, okay? I actually rated this higher than the opening tag match, which may be, blasphemous to a few people, because it's okay, how can you rate a well-worked tag match as being lesser than a full-on comedy match? But look, I thought this was funny. So you got Ichikawa. The first big thing is he introduces a massive ladder into the match, and from there, you think, oh, okay, Ichikawa's what? He's going to try, be more aggressive. But no, Fuji just bullies Ichikawa for basically the entirety of the match. And Ichikawa tries his best to wrestle, but, Fuji's just no, you are a fucking idiot. I'm an actual wrestler. I'm going to put you down, stupid little bug man. And it looked like Fuji had actually won by count out at one point because the count reached 20 and Fuji, ascended to the ropes, and the crowd was really shocked. They're like, holy shit, it's Japan, and we finally saw a count out victory. And look, for the record, I know they do happen once in a blue moon, but especially in Dragon Gate, it feels like I never ever see them. And admittedly, I haven't been watching, Dragon Gate for very long, but hey, I feel like I never see them. Anyways, the crowd was freaking out. Fuji was, so happy, but then the announcer announced that because I had to read I Heart DG to understand this, but apparently they announced because it's Stalker Ichikawa, and I guess just because he's such a big loser, they had to increase it from a 20 count to a 50 count. And so that was actually a pretty funny moment because then the announcer goes right back to counting and Fuji's totally deflated. The crowd's, roaring with laughter. And Ichikawa, he's still dead on the outside, even with ended up being, I think he got in at 25 or 30 or something. But yeah, even then with that extra time to rest, he just looked, totally flattened. So Ichikawa was lying down close to the ladder, and Fuji realized, this is no mere bugman. I'm going to have to go all out to put him away, just this once. And so Fuji starts, ascending the ladder from one side. He climbs all the way up, and this is a massive ladder. This isn't like a typical sort of, ladder that's only 2 meters high. This was like a 3 meter high ladder, I'd say. And so he climbs all the way up, and the crowd's, oohing and ahhing, what is old Don Fuji going to do from the top rope? But then it was really, really funny at the time because Fuji just ascends down the other side of the ladder and then he just goes and stomps on Ichikawa. So it's that big build up just for that funny little moment. I think that was really what pushed me to giving this 2.5 stars because I was like, okay, Fuji, he really plays the grumpy veteran role really well. And that means that when it comes to the comedy spots that he gets every now and then, they come off as more impactful because you're expecting this guy to be, straight face, all, big bruiser. But then he's like, oh, he can throw in a bit of comedy. So yeah, I really enjoy that sort of, mixing up of expectations. Surprisingly, Ichikawa ended up getting quite a few, relatively fun hope spots, and then he attempted a German suplex on Fuji, but he just couldn't perform the bridge at all. He ended up just collapsing under Fuji's weight, and from there, Fuji just covered Ichikawa, and he ended up getting the win from that. So I guess, for the record books, it would say Ichikawa... what does that count? I guess is he I don't even know how to describe that because it was literally he tried a German suplex and Fuji's weight collapsed on him. So I guess maybe that would be Fuji defeated Ichikawa by inverted splash or something because it was his back weight. Anyways, this match does not deserve this much analysis, but look, it was a fun little match, 2.5 stars. And look, the comedy didn't even end when the bell was rung because afterwards Fuji seemed to want to carry Ichikawa to the back, and it was very funny because Ichikawa looks like some sort of damsel in distress. He's totally wiped out from this match where he didn't really have to do anything, and then Fuji just dumps him over his shoulder onto the mat when it looked like, oh, he's going to take sympathy on him. No, he's going to take this bug man, he's going to fucking squash him on the floor. before. So look, Fuji, good bruiser, grumpy old guy, and he's got the comedy to boot. The next match we got was Skywalker versus Kanda versus Kagetora in a triple threat match. So when I saw this on paper, I was thinking, okay, we know that K Ness got pinned on the February 5th show, and then he ended up getting a win here over not a rookie, but a young guy in Jason Lee. So when I saw Skywalker versus Kanda, I was thinking, okay, Kanda also got pinned. I can't remember who it was that pinned Kanda. I think he might have been pinned by Ishida, I think, on one of the shows. I can't remember if it was the February 5th show or one of the late January shows. But either way, I was like, okay, is Dragon Gate going to really just lose all momentum they had with Skywalker after his, run in the rookie tournament and his win over Ben K by having Kanda pin him here as if a way to say, hey, okay, the veterans are back. I guess some sort of like mentality of, 50-50 booking. So going into this match, I really was worried about I like Kanda. I don't think he's great, but I think he's all right. And I was really worried that he was going to end up pinning Skywalker. Luckily, that did not happen. And it was, in fact, Skywalker who got the win over Kanda. So in the end, my fears were unfounded. And look, this wasn't a super good match. If you've got Skywalker and Kagetora, it's going to be like a relatively decent match, and Kanda can go sometimes. I feel like I always have to defend Kanda because when I started looking into what the Dragon Gate, online community thought of Kanda, everyone seems really down on him. And as I've been watching, before I could be I guess sort of like poisoned by like the mainstream opinion, I thought he was decent. I thought he was even, very good at times. But yeah, look, the match wasn't special. I gave it 2.5 stars. There were a lot of temporary, broken alliances all throughout this match. Kanda was out of the ring early, which allowed some really cool Skywalker and Kagetora exchanges. Sadly, Kanda had to come back eventually, and that slowed things down. And look, my big takeaway here was that Kagetora really outshined Skywalker. And I know you sort of expect that because you think, oh yeah, well, Skywalker's the new guy. Kagetora's been here for ages, so obviously you should expect Kagetora to outshine Skywalker. But I guess people, I refer back to the online, mainstream opinion. Everyone seems really high on Skywalker, and I've seen a few people sort of talking down to Kagetora, but I thought he totally outshined Skywalker here. And look, Skywalker, obviously, it wasn't like he was botching or looking awkward, but he just didn't look as energetic and as crisp as Kagetora. Like, every time I've seen Kagetora since I've been watching Dragon Gate, and again, I feel like I always say this, I haven't been watching long, but in the few months I've been watching Dragon Gate diligently, Kagetora has always impressed me. It never looks like he's taking a day off, and yeah, I really thought he was working hard here. Technique, acrobatics, they were all on point. Skywalker hit the Ashla on Kanda, and that gave him the win. So this is a pretty short match, but look, it's fun whenever Kagetora's in there, and it's fun whenever Skywalker's in there. So this isn't going to be a bad match. It was 2.5 stars, nothing special. Kagetora sadly overshadowed Skywalker. Look, I would love a singles match between them. That would be awesome. The next match was also a bit shortish, but, still fun. Not something really to go out of your way for. I also gave this 2.5 stars, but, it was fun. So this was the RED team of Eita, Sakamoto, and Yoshida versus the Mochizuki Dojo team of Yoshioka, Minoura, and Watanabe. So, right from the start, now what do you guys think I'm going to say? You probably think I'm going to say, well, there was a jump from the RED team, but no, it was the Mochizuki Dojo boys who, I guess, preempted that attack. They've been watching the tape. They've been going on Dragon Gate Network, and they've been watching the tapes on ExtremeWrestlingTorrents.net, and they'll be like, okay, we know these RED boys, they're gonna fucking, these heel bastards, they're gonna jump us, so we're gonna jump them. That's the thing that the rookies don't get enough credit for. They study the tapes, they love wrestling, they know what's what, and so they implemented that into their game. That's the best psychology I've ever seen in a wrestling match. That's a reference for an earlier bit in the show from all those dedicated fans. So look, Dojo boys, incredibly impressive acrobatics, but then you've got RED bringing it all down by initiating a motherfucking arena brawl and taking them all around the hall, brawling. It's like, god damn, why can't we just have... And look, I feel like I'm always defending RED, and then I always feel like I've gone too far in defending them because I like Sakamoto, at least in RED. I haven't been super impressed with him in Noah, and I like Yoshida in small amounts, and I think 8 is really good. It's just so annoying when a team of decent or good wrestlers gets saddled with the heel gimmick, because then they just have to be annoying. And I know that's the point of the heels, they're meant to be annoying, but it's like, come on, I just want to see some cool flips in Dragon Gate. I don't want to see Eita and Sakamoto throwing a guy into some chairs or hitting their heads on the side of the ring. That's just not super interesting. Anyways, back in the ring, RED were working over Watanabe for quite a while. Then Yoshioka and Minoru, they ended up looking good after they... I couldn't tell if Watanabe just managed to escape to the outside or he made a tag. Either way, he escaped, and Yoshioka and Minoru, they started running around. They were, really good. All three of the rookies ended up hitting some really fun three-man tag team moves on Eita, and they had really nice chemistry. And I can't remember what move it was, but, because these guys, they're running all around the ring, pulling off some great moves. So I can't remember all the spots and sequences exactly. Sue me for the fifth time. But there was one moment where it looked like, holy shit, these three guys are going to work together to put Eita away. And look, obviously that didn't end up happening. Would have been awesome. But then RED, they realized, oh shit, these young guys are actually sort of impressive. We should probably, up our game if we want to make the fans not think that we're fucking shit. So then they started hitting their own impressive tag team moves. It was mostly big power moves, but I like that because it was a nice counter to the more speedy, high-flying, moves of the youngsters. So it was like a nice sort of balance. And this match ended with Eita hitting the Imperial Uno super kick on Minoru for the win. So, fine match, 2.5 stars. If we didn't have all the RED brawling bullshit, it would have been actually like a 3-star minimum, but I'm just so fucking sick of RED, oh, we're heels, so we brawl and we slow the match down for no good reason. I'm so sick of that. But look, still a good match in the end, I guess. You've probably noticed a trend with my ratings of the matches on the show where I've been like, 2.25 stars, 2.5 stars. So you'd be correct in thinking, Lewis, you didn't think this was a very good show. And yeah, up until this point, I thought this was like a pretty, throwaway Dragon Gate show, and I was really disappointed. I still had hopes for the the Puck versus KZ title match, and I was thinking, everything else on the show is going to be really skippable. Luckily, the last 2 matches before the Dreamgate title match, and again, they weren't super good, but they were pretty decent. So the first of those matches was Shimizu and Ben K versus Kai and UT. So from the pure fact that this is Big Ben teaming up as a pure tag team, 2v2 for the first time in quite a while, I knew that there was going to be some development here with their ongoing feud, whether it was going to be one of them leaving RED or turning on each other or whatever. It was obvious that something was going to be set up here. So UT, first of all, looked really good early on. Again, I think he's one of the smallest guys on the roster. Maybe like Dragon Dyer is smaller than him. And I feel bad for always commenting on his size, but I do that out of admiration because his size just amplifies how great of a technical wrestler he is. And I guess just how good he's not really a high flyer, but he's very speedy off the ropes and that sort of thing. That's what I mean. He really comes off as sort of the complete package, Hey, Zack Sabre Jr., this is how you make technical wrestling exciting and not coming off as like a fucking, overkill blood sport, okay? I do respect you, Zack Sabre Jr., at least in your wrestling, not in anything else. But yeah, you could learn from UT because he's the real Daniel Bryan technical wrestler of the year, okay? You give him your fucking title. I don't even know, those awards aren't even out yet, are they? But we just know that Zack Saber's going to get it just because he's like the only wrestler that people think of when they think of technical wrestling right now, which is a shame. It should be UT because UT's awesome. Anyways, got away from there to do a little rant on the Observer Awards and Zack Sabre Jr. That was pretty random. Anyways, UT looked good early on. He was pulling off some moves, but because Shimizu and BNK are way bigger than him, UT had to rely on Kai to get a few, legal interventions in order to actually start making some progress. It was really fun watching BNK work together to work over UT, and as they're putting together like their signature tag team moves and just being like, big bruises, big bulldozers against, tiny UT, I was thinking to myself, damn, even though I really want to see like a singles run for BNK and Shimizu, I also really like them together. And I was thinking like, please Dragon Gate, can we give them both a decent singles run without having to split them up? Because they're such a good team together. It really was this match where I was like reminded like, these guys are actually a great tag team. Don't break them up, Dragon Gate. Push them, but you don't need to break them up for that. Anyways, Kai finally got the tag in, and he delivered, a few decent series of moves. Kai's interesting because his style, obviously he's not a Dragon Gate wrestler. He's from, All Japan and Wrestle One. So he's not like the sort of car crash style wrestler, but he works well just because his style feels so much slower. But I don't mean slower as in like, as I was saying before, with RED and their, slow brawl style. He just feels more, I guess, focused. Like he'll hit like his big enziguri or like some big boots, and it sort of slows down the match, but it feels more impactful that way. And I guess it also helps that he's like the biggest wrestler on the, the de facto Dragon Gate roster right now. Like at the end of the show, I think it was, everyone, like all of the wrestlers in the ring came out and stood together, and Kai like towered over everyone. And it's funny because I'm just going to go back into the whole size thing with the Dragon Gate. You guys don't care about that, but look, I'm just saying Kai, he feels very unique in Dragon Gate. That's all I'm trying to say. whenever UT would get back in the ring, he'd always, show off that fantastic technique of his, perfect movement, perfect transition into holds. And there was even more drama for the finish. This was very, I guess, mirroring the finish of the RED tag match on the February 5th show, where once again, it was Eita who accidentally interfered and caused his team to lose. So what happened was, Eita, he was trying to hit the chair, hit UT with the chair, but he ended up hitting Ben K, and that allowed UT to then roll Ben K up for the win. And obviously on the February 5th show, it was Shimizu who Eita accidentally super kicked, and here he accidentally clobbers Ben K with the chair. So then this is even more development in the RED turmoil, because it's like, okay, it's not just Shimizu versus Ben K, and it's not just Eita versus Shimizu, it's also now Ben K versus Eita. And before this, I really thought this was going to end up with Shimizu being the one who's kicked out of RED, and I guess I didn't really understand why. I was like, why are they going to push Shimizu as a singles wrestler before Ben K? But now it seems like they're just trying to establish that there is general turmoil in RED. Because what happened was, in the post-match, I guess I'll just comment on, immediately after Eita hit Ben K with a chair, I couldn't tell if this was just generally like low effort acting on Eita's part, or if this really was intentional, because Eita seemed like he grabbed his head and he like leaned back like, oh no, I've hit Ben K, but it seemed really low effort. And again, I don't know if that's just, because Eita himself as the wrestling actor is feeling bored, but maybe that was sort of meant to imply Eita is intentionally trying to hurt these guys. But then it's like, okay, if you want to play that angle, then why would you make it look so accidental in all these moments where Eita's attacked them? But anyways, what ends up happening is in the post-match, on the mic, Shimizu, basically says, hey, Eita, stop interfering in our matches, you're just ruining it. And Eita's sort of like, hey, that's not my fault that you have lost, it's all your fault, and blah, blah, blah. What was also an interesting plot development here in the RED breakup story was that this was the first time the entire year where Big Ben actually looked united at the end of the match, because obviously on the February 5th show, it wasn't Shimizu's fault that they lost the match, because it was Eita who interfered and accidentally superkicked him. And here, it wasn't Ben K's fault that Eita had hit him with a chair. And before that, all those other matches, it was always Shimizu accidentally laying Ben K out with a lariat. But on these last two shows, neither of them have attacked each other and caused their team to lose as a result of an accidental strike or whatever. So in this match, at the very end, Ben K and Shimizu, they were very close. This was helped by the fact that Kai and UT, they established a challenge for the Twin Gate titles as a result of their win. And so Big Ben, they're sort of standing together being like, hey, you didn't beat us. Eita was the reason that you guys won. And so, yeah, looking more united, looking like, hey, maybe they aren't going to allow Shimizu's accidental attacks on Ben K to end up ruining Big Ben as a tag team. Maybe this interference by Eita these last two matches has sort of reminded Ben K, like, hey, Shimizu, he's not trying to hurt you. He's just made, some admittedly constant big mistakes. But look, even Eita's attacked him, and hey, now Eita's attacked you. So I guess that's sort of proving to Ben K, hey, look, accidents can happen. Teammates can accidentally attack each other. So hey, give Shimizu another go. And look, I'm all about that story. As I've already said, I'm really keen for both guys to get singles pushes this year. I think they're really, really good. I think Ben K is, a bit better than Shimizu, but I also really like Shimizu. But at the same time, I want them to stay as a tag team. They're just so good. Dragon Gate, don't you fucking break them up. I swear to God. So just to quickly round up my review of the actual match itself, look, this is a decent match. I gave it 3 stars. I really enjoyed all of Big Ben's tag team moves, which again is the reason I don't fucking want them broken up. But Kai was solid, and UT was very exciting all around. So yeah, decent match, 3 stars. The next match was the other match on the show worth checking out. This was I was going to say it was the maximum match, but it really wasn't. This was an odd match. I believe this was titled as like a Hakata Star Lanes like memorial sort of match, because this was the maximum team of Dragon Kid and Yoshino teaming with Genki Horiguchi from Natural Vibes and Yamato from Tribe Vanguard versus Masaki Mochizuki from the Mochizuki Dojo, then Naruki Doi from Maximum, and then Saito and Susumu Yokosuka, with Susumu obviously from Tribe. Oh, sorry, I was going to say Tribe Vanguard from Natural Vibes. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Because they could have easily switched Genki Horiguchi with Naruki Doi here, and then you'd have the 3-man Maximum team alongside Yamato versus the 2-man Tribe. Oh, sorry, I keep saying Tribe Vanguard when I mean Natural Vibes. It would have been against the two-man Natural Vibes team of Horiguchi and Susumu. So I'm not exactly sure what the reason was for switching that up. Maybe it was literally just to play up the Dragon Kid versus Naruki Doi storyline that's been, because we know they're going to have a singles match in early March, but they didn't really play that up that much in this match. So I don't know what the reason was for splitting up the stables here. So as I feel like I'm always saying with the Dragon Gate, lesser big matches, there were some fine exchanges early on. This was, I guess, sort of like another sort of crowd-pleasing match comparable to the February 5th Torimon versus T2P show, because we got like a lot of really random interactions and matchups here that seemed, mostly done for, fan service, but they were like genuinely funny. Like there was a big pop when Yoshino and Doi tagged in to face off, because obviously, their speed muscle, they've been, a legendary tag team, but they're facing off the tag team partners going at each other, and they had some really cool interactions. Then we also had some really cool tag team spots, such as when Yamato and Yoshino, well, I guess this isn't really a spot. Like I'm not going to describe like, they did this really complex acrobatic athletic spot, but they did hit like some cool moves. But then the big pop was when both Yamato and Yoshino did the the sassy hair pull sort of move that Yoshino always does. Sorry, that Yamato always does. God, how could I get that wrong? Jeez. There was also a really cool moment when Saito and Susumu did like a two-man tower sort of stomp on Dragon Kid against the ropes. That was a cool little moment. There was also I really enjoyed this, because Doi and Saito, they teamed up to do that move that Yoshino and Doi always do, where like it's so quick I can't even like describe it, but it's the move that you always see them do. Come on guys, cut me some slack here. Don't sue me for the sixth time. You know what they always do. It's the move where like Yoshino does something and then Doi does something, and then Yoshino comes off the ropes and he hits that kick. But the joke was obviously that Saito, when he comes off the ropes, I couldn't tell from the angle of the hard cam. Obviously something went wrong, because all the crowd and the other wrestlers in the ring started laughing. But maybe Saito totally missed the kick, or maybe he went for a leg drop on top of the person as opposed to a sliding kick. But either way, Saito was very happy with himself, but Doi and the other wrestlers were like, no, that's not how you do it, you idiot. So yeah, that was a fun little moment. Obviously Saito, he had no idea what was wrong. He was like me, he barely, like, he knew the move, but he didn't know it too well, which is literally my case here. And he was like, hey, what, I thought I did it right, didn't I? But yeah, poor Saito. It's weird, because Saito is one of those guys who I see talked about as being like really good in Dragon Gate's early days, and I guess whenever I go out there, I expect him to be more of a serious wrestler, to show me what people saw of him back in the day. But he's always a very heavy comedy wrestler, and it's like, I appreciate that, but I guess I wish he was a bit more serious, because it's like, Saito, I want to see what you can offer me. What can you offer me as a Dragon Gate aficionado? So after this first half of the match, which was mostly characterized by just like, individual cool spots after individual cool spots, we finally got, as I've been calling it, as I love calling it, the car crash style, where everyone's running in, everyone's hitting their dives, their big moves, their power moves, their strikes. It was really cool. Everyone was getting a few spots and sequences to, be the center of attention if they weren't, standing out. So, obviously, some people aren't going to, be hitting like the big lariats or whatever, or the big crazy dives, but some people, like, let's say, Horiguchi or Saito, they're still going to be, bumping and selling well and being the person who's taking the cool move. So, everyone got a bit of time to look cool. The finishing stretch had a large selection of the wrestlers going up on the rope from the outside and hitting a sort of a big dive move into the inside. And then it was actually Genki Horiguchi who ended up getting a backslide pin over Mochizuki for the win. Now, I have no idea what to make of that. Mochizuki was one of Dragon Gate's big guys last year. He was the one who held the Dreamgate title for quite a while before losing it to Yoshino. And Genki Horiguchi, he's always considered like a solid all-rounder, but he's like, if I have to rank the grade like of importance that Dragon Gate seems to place on the wrestlers, Horiguchi is like a C-grade wrestler, like maybe he'll win the Triangle Gate or the Twin Gate every now and then, but why would you have him pin one of the guys who was the Dreamgate champion last year? Like, I was thinking, like, Dragon Gate sometimes does this stuff. Like, I guess I feel like they don't always protect their wrestlers in the best way. Like, I always think back to when I first, tried to get into Dragon Gate, which was, I guess technically the second time I tried to get into Dragon Gate. It was after the Final Gate 2017 show, and that was the final between Mochizuki and Saito. And I thought it was a good match. I didn't think it was, like, fantastic. I thought Saito looked good. But then the very first show of 2018... that had Saito coming out in like basically drag, like, sort of like hooker boots and that sort of style with, like, I think it was makeup. He just looked like a total joke. And then the match itself that he wrestled as a pure like comedy wrestler. And I was thinking, okay, Dragon Gate, what's your angle? Because you just had this guy main event your last big show of the year, and in that match he was treated seriously, but here he is coming out, looking like a total joke, like, but in hooker boots and all the crazy makeup and whatever, and then he wrestles as a comedy wrestler. So maybe it's just a difference between what I'm used to with like New Japan, where Dragon Gate just, I guess, considers, hey, if this guy isn't our champion, we're not going to protect him. And that's really stupid to me, because you already have the storyline there of Mochizuki being an ex-Dreamgate champion, so he should be protected. He doesn't have to be as protected as Park or Yoshino or even KZ, but there's still, honor to being a recently ex-Dreamgate champion. So why would you throw that away by having him take a fall to like a random guy like Horiguchi? It just doesn't make sense. Look, again, I'm spending too much time on this, but look, I guess that just really irked me. Anyways, the match was pretty good. This was a step above the other matches on the show, excluding the main event. I gave this 3.25 stars, so pretty good match, worth checking out if you have to check out only like a handful of matches on the show, which is what I'd recommend doing. It would literally just be the final 3 matches. So you got Big Ben versus Kai and UT, the random 8-man tag match, which I've just reviewed, and now the main event, Park versus KZ. I can't tell you guys how happy I am to be reviewing a big pro-res match that isn't from New Japan, where I can agree with the general sentiment that it is fantastic, because, a lot of pro-res promotions have, had some matches that have ended up on like, Cage Match's match guide, and I've been like, oh yeah, it was a pretty good match, or it was an alright match, or even it was a great match, but it wasn't, the fantastic level of quality that other people seem to be saying it was. But this was an outstanding match. So Park vs KZ, I gave it, get the rating out of the way so we can get to the good stuff. I gave this 4.25. And I feel like I'm always justifying my ratings, but I guess I listen to so many wrestling podcasts and, look up a bunch of ratings online and people's reviews. And I feel like people just throw out like 4.5+ star ratings to like any good match. So, and again, I feel like I'm always trying to defend myself from being an elitist, but look, when I say a match is like plus 4 stars, that means like it is a great match. It is a match I'll think about for the rest of the month. So, look, this match is already in my top 3 matches of the year thus far. I don't know where I can rate it, because I want to compare it to Naito versus Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom, and this was definitely a much more athletic match, but I feel like I enjoyed the story of Jericho versus Naito more, plus just the the unique feeling of that style compared to the usual New Japan style. But anyways, look, you don't want to hear me compare this match to another match. You want to hear me review this match itself, don't you? Well, let's get into it. The first thing to consider about this match was, and this was heightened by the fact that it was on hard cam with zero commentary, the crowd support for KZ was insane. There was barely a moment in the first half where things are sort of, it's a feeling out process and, spots as opposed to like, run-on sequences. Everyone was just always calling out KZ. And in the second half, where the big moves are coming out and, all the near falls and hope spots, the crowd was absolutely, feral for him. They absolutely loved him. So yeah, that's the first thing to consider. Regardless of the result, KZ came out of this looking like a total star. He lost absolutely nothing in this match. So the match started out, instead of going for a sort of standard grappling exchanges, we got some, rather acrobatic exchanges, still with the grapple. So that was pretty cool. KZ hit some dives to wear Puck down. Puck hit a top rope brainbuster, followed by, a brief sort of brawl outside. And this was the beginning of Park really playing up the heel angle, because obviously it's sort of hard to, boo Park, because his movement and acrobatics are just so insane. But so he initiated this outside brawl, and it was like, oh, okay, Park's the one who's bringing this match down, at least in kayfabe. And so the audience, okay, we're gonna start booing him. And that was when Park also started going for sort of illegal holds and kicks, playing up on how in the build up to this match he had been like, oh, KZ, I remember you from the old days. You're not willing to challenge. You're not ready to challenge me. You're not on my level and that sort of stuff. So we can see Park, visibly kicking KZ while he's down and being like, yeah, you're just not on my level, mate. And KZ was beaten down for ages, but then he started using his signature forearms and elbows and uppercuts to wear Park down. And I've gone on for ages about how great KZ's various arm strikes are. They're all fantastic. Sometimes he will add the artificial impact sound where he'll slap his thigh or he'll slap his side or his opponent's side while executing it, but he always does a great way of hiding it. So a lot of people, they'll just do like a big arc with their hands to slap their thigh or their opponent's side to do the impact sounds, but I don't even know how KZ does it sometimes, because he's just, I guess generally with Dragon Gate wrestlers, they're so well trained that they hide their artificial impact sounds really well. And Park was doing a really great job of selling all of KZ's strikes. So I was really surprised by how heavy the match was, hitting you over the head with the idea that, wow, KZ, not only are his strikes good against, the Yamatos and the Dois and the Yoshinos, they can also take down Park, because Park was doing the sort of like, perfect flat back bump, falling like perfectly straight backwards after taking a really big strike to the dome, and his head shooting right up as he struck across the face. Park was doing a really good job at just making KZ's strikes look brutal. Just looking over my notes, I feel like as opposed to giving like a sort of overview of the match by saying, oh, this part of the match was this and this, I've basically just noted down all the cool spots in the match, and there were so many. So yeah, basically for this review, because this was such an awesome match, I'm just going to be like identifying all the really big spots that stuck out to me. So for example, there was a really cool one where KZ, he had Park up on his shoulders in like the fireman carry position outside the ring, and he hit Park with a pump handle slam to the apron side from the outside. So that was really cool. Looked pretty brutal, because, they always play up, oh, that's the hardest part of the, thing, because you had them on the side. And again, Park sold that really well, because we usually see Park very stoic. He plays up that bastard role of his where it's like, you can't defeat me, that stuff. But here we see KZ really pushing him to his limit, making him realize, oh, KZ, he is crazy, Park, and he's going to fucking take it to you, mate. There was also a great moment where Park, he destroyed KZ with like a backslide driver. So like you think back to the previous match where it was Horiguchi who pinned what was his name? Mochizuki. He pinned him with a backslide pin. So, Park must have been backstage. He must have seen that finish and be like, I should use that. That's a pretty good move. But he was like, oh shit, KZ's not worn down enough. It's like it's WWE versus SmackDown. Oh, he's not groggy enough. He hasn't, all of his body parts aren't red, so I can't get the pin. So I'm just going to have to turn this from a pin into a fucking driver. And it looked crazy. He basically dropped KZ on his neck. And that wasn't the only spot in this match where KZ took like some crazy bumps. Like the first half of the match, Park was really, the entirety of the match, I should say, Park was doing a really good job selling for all of KZ's moves. But then, for the second half of the match, when it got to the really big stuff, KZ was doing an amazing job of bumping, but is it really up to him how he falls basically on his neck and doesn't get injured? Can I really compliment him on that? Or I guess Park on managing to do that without actually killing him? Who gets the compliments here? Leave your comments below. So KZ was getting quite destroyed, but he was always bringing back those elbows, forearms, uppercuts, and as I've been saying, he was always getting great impact on them. Park continued selling them really well. This was an interesting story. I don't know if I've ever seen this in like modern pro res or modern wrestling, but the story of this match was basically that both guys continued trying to go to the top rope to hit their moves to a downed opponent. So there were still moments where a guy would get up to the top rope and hit a guy with like a drop kick or something, I believe, when the guy was standing, but they constantly, both of them, tried to get to the top rope, and KZ would try to hit his frog splash, the KZ time, which you'll remember from like 30 minutes ago I was criticizing for being a stupid name, and it is still a stupid name. And at the same time, Neville, sorry, oh god, I've just called him Neville, sorry, what's that, 7th lawsuit? At the same time, Park, which is his name, Park, he was also trying to get to the top rope to hit the black arrow, and both guys were constantly failing at that. So that was a really interesting story, and obviously this ended up playing in when we got towards the more big move trading section where KZ would hit his frog splash and Park would hit his black arrow. But it was KZ who first broke the streak of both guys not being able to hit a move from the top rope to a downed opponent, as he hit a diving elbow from the top. KZ just continued with all of those elbows, forearms, and uppercuts, and he hit the sliding uppercut, which he, as I've already mentioned when I was reviewing the triple threat between him and Yamato and Doi, he's finished people off with that move. So when he hit Park right then and there with a sliding uppercut, I was like, holy shit, is KZ actually about to win this match right then? But obviously, Park kicked out, but then we got another really cool moment where KZ, he had a swanton bomb, and, well, I guess, is that a senton? Is it just a swanton if Jeff Hardy does it? Either way, he had a swanton / a senton bomb from the top, and then he was going for the frog splash, the KZ time, but Park, he seems to share my sentiment that the KZ time is a stupid name, so he's like, no, fuck you, KZ, that's a dumb name, so I'm not going to take this move, and he got his knees up to the gut for KZ instead. And look, I really thought, like, first I thought, okay, sliding uppercut from KZ, this match is going to end. And then when KZ went up for the frog splash, I really thought that was going to be the end. So yeah, I was just really buying into everything from KZ. And that wasn't even the craziest spot. Like, the biggest moment of the match for me was when Park went to the top rope, and once again, KZ wasn't downed. He'd gotten up, but he was facing away from Park, so he couldn't really see where he was. And I guess that's sort of like stupid wrestling logic where it's like, okay, wrestler, the guy's not in your like peripheral vision. You should probably turn around because it's likely where he is. But anyways, KZ, he's like, oh, where's Park? And then Park hits a fucking shooting star press right to KZ while he's standing up, and KZ's body just collapses under it. And I was really worried when I saw this because, well, not the actual move itself, because as it connected, I was like, okay, that was a clean fall from KZ. It doesn't look like Park like destroyed him, but it still looked like a really cool move. And just as Park was airborne, I was like, holy shit, this could easily go so wrong. Like, Park could easily like just land right on KZ's neck, but everything worked out well. It ended up just being a really cool spot. As I said, my favorite spot of the match. Park decided to follow this up with a really big lariat, and obviously that still got a near fall, so Park was like, okay, time for the black arrow. Went for the black arrow, and he missed. From there, KZ, what do you think? I've been going on about this all review long. He just continued with those elbows, uppercuts, great impact. Park is still selling those strikes fantastically. His head's being jolted upwards and to the side as a result of the impact. And then Park took the frog splash, but he kicked out. And that was a really shocking moment too, because the frog splash had been built up on those, I believe it was on those like late January shows, and also obviously that's the same move that KZ used to put Doi away with, but that time he hit a pair of frog splashes, and my memory's a bit fuzzy, but I don't think he hit a pair of frog splashes here. I'm pretty sure it was just one KZ time frog splash. So maybe that's like the kayfabe reason why the frog splash didn't actually win. Sort of like how Tanahashi always has to hit a pair of high fly flows, which are coincidentally also frog splashes. But for him, it's like he has to hit one to a standing upright opponent or to their back, and then he has to hit them on the actual belly. But for KZ, he has to hit two right to the belly in order for it to pay off. I'm not sure if that's the story. As I love reminding you, I'm not a long-time viewer of Dragon Gate, so I'm not exactly sure of the lore surrounding the KZ time frog splash. Maybe someone can fill me in, but yeah, that seems to be what I've gathered from it thus far. The reason I said all of that about the pair of the frog splashes being required by KZ to actually finish someone off is because immediately after that, KZ, I'm pretty sure at least it was immediately after that, KZ tried to go for another frog splash, but Park was wise and he managed to roll to the outside. So, maybe Park had been watching tape. He's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can survive one, but if I hit two, then KZ's taken my motherfucking dream title. So Park was like, okay, I'm going to roll to the side, going to be a bit cowardly, but you know what? I'm the bastard. I'm the dream champion. I've got to do what I got to do. From there, the match just continued being fucking awesome. We got so many damn teased near falls and finishes. And it wasn't even just the near falls that were dramatic, because there were genuinely so many moments where it felt like, okay, the match is going to end right now. Like, I may have counted maybe 4, maybe even 5 moments where I was like, holy shit, the match is ending. Whoa, no, it's not. Because, and look, I'm not someone who easily bites on near falls. Like, I'm usually overthinking things where I'll be like, okay, I know that this isn't going to finish it, because like, I'll be like, for some promotions, I'll be like, okay, I know this guy's finisher is always kicked out of, so I can't buy into this move at all, even though it's been executed really well. And, for other guys, it's like, okay, well, I know that the match isn't going to end this early, so I know that I'm not going to bite on this fall. But for, Dragon Gate here in this match, they got me like 5 times. And that's one of the reasons I enjoyed this match so much, because it's funny story. I actually thought that I was spoiled on this match, because I went onto my podcast player, and for one of the shows I listen to that happens to review Dragon Gate, I thought I saw in the title some words that implied that Park was losing and leaving the company. So I was really annoyed at that. And so when I come to watch this match, I was a bit down, because I was like, oh, damn it, I know the result. Maybe I can still enjoy the match. And obviously the level of athleticism, acrobatics and power, just passion on full display, that first of all stopped me from being, oh, the match is spoiled, I can't enjoy it, because it was just so awesome itself. But then when Park ended up getting the win, I got that extra level of enjoyment, because I was like, oh shit, I guess I wasn't spoiled, and this is genuinely shocking. So yeah, I guess I had the first like 5 genuine shocks, being like, wow, I thought the match would end there, and then the final shock where I thought that the match I'd been spoiled on ended up being false and, wasn't spoiled. I wish I knew that I wasn't spoiled going into the match, but, silver lining is thinking you're spoiled and then finding out that itself was a lie. So, hey, that's pretty good. We got 2 final big spots to end this match. So the first, which now that I'm thinking about it, like referring to my notes, I think this might have actually been my favorite spot of the match. Like that shooting star to the upright, standing KZ, that was awesome. But this, when Park hit a fucking top rope, was it second rope or top rope? Either way, he hit a second or top rope tombstone on KZ. And like, damn, that was the scariest moment of this match. And look, now that I'm thinking back, like, yeah, this was definitely my moment of the match because, and people will complain that that wasn't the finish itself, but look, it was a fantastic spot. And look, it just added insult to injury then when Park went back to the top rope and hit the black arrow and it finally connected and put KZ away. So, yeah. KZ was totally destroyed at the end of this match, and it looked like he was on a roll. The crowd was behind him. He was behind himself, like he was so passionate, the crowd was passionate for him, and then Park just brings out his awesomeness with that fucking brutal tombstone from the fucking top rope. Okay, as soon as I said that, I was like, okay, no, I really want to make sure, was that the top rope? Because I was like imagining that, and I was like, okay, a top rope tombstone, even if I feel like I saw that, that sounds too crazy. So I went back, I checked the GIFs, and look, it was in fact a middle rope tombstone. But look, don't let that dissuade you from thinking that that was an awesome spot and incredibly dangerous, because it was both of those things. And yeah, another, picture perfect black arrow from Park. It's funny, I only just found out today that it was called the black arrow because I've been following, Neville and WWE for so long. I'm just so used to calling it the red arrow, but black arrow, that works well. And if you call it the red arrow, it's maybe a bit too on the nose because, hey, he hits the red arrow and he's the ace of RED. So, it's a bit like too cute there. So, calling it the black arrow, playing up how he's like the bastard, the evil guy, the heel. I like that. But yeah, this was a fantastic match. 4.25 stars. It's currently my number 3 ranked match of the year, maybe number 2, depending on when I go back and recalibrate my list. Yeah, I love this match. This was awesome. I've seen some people go as high as like 5 stars. I don't agree with that, but I totally understand because the passion, I'm just going to repeat myself, like the passion, the athleticism, the acrobatics, the power, the technique from both guys, just the pure drama, my own desperation for KZ to win. It was just so great. That all being said, I do think that it is good that KZ didn't win here, and allow me to explain why. And I mentioned this reasoning on my review of the Dragon Gate Open, the New Year Gate shows, but if KZ just suddenly got this massive push right at the start of 2019, with pins over Doi, Yamato, Yoshino, Yamato and Doi again in the triple threat, and then if he beat Park right here, it would feel like maybe, to me at least, it would feel like way too much of a massive push. And that would also feel a bit, I guess it would feel sort of unearned because in my mind, I'd just be thinking, okay, KZ just got this massive push and is now the Dreamgate champion after like 1 month just because Park is signed to AEW and, Park's a Western guy. He's from the UK. He wants to be closer to the UK. So he's just going to go back to WWE. He's just going to go back to the US and wrestle in AEW. So that's the reason he has to drop the title here. So I was thinking after the match ended, I was like, okay, well, that's cool because the easy option here would have just been have KZ take the title off of Park and then Park leave the promotion. And that would have been like, okay, that's really disappointing. It's just this isn't the story that Dragon Gate wants to tell. This is the one they're being forced to tell. But then it's like, okay, so Park retains. Obviously, Dragon Gate have more plans for Park. And yeah, look, this story isn't going to be rushed. We're still probably going to get KZ being champion before the end of the year. And Dragon Gate's going to take their time with us. They're going to make us really desperate to see KZ as champion. They're not just going to rush us into it and then make us like, what do you call it? Like, turn against him because we're like, oh, you've been put, you don't deserve this. You just got pushed by management. You're not the champion we want. So look, I really appreciate this approach. It's not exactly, New Japan levels of, 2 to 5 year quote unquote ghetto long-term booking. So yeah, that's another thing I like about Dragon Gate, I guess, because I appreciate New Japan's style of, planting seeds over years, but sometimes it's like, dude, I've only got so much fucking time in the world. I just want to see a wrestling story without having to fucking wait 4 years for a payoff. So yeah, I like this approach because what I think is going to happen is, and I expected this because I guess I did sort of fear that KZ was going to beat Park right then and there for the title, and then we wouldn't really have much story, or at least much interesting story going forward. But I guess I think that KZ is probably going to win the King of Gate tournament, then he's going to be champion come the time of Kobe World, and that's where I think we're going to get the future projection for KZ. And again, I guess with Park winning here, I'm more inclined than I was on my last review of Dragon Gate to think that he's going to leave. I still, he's probably going to stay around until at least the time of Kobe. I don't know if he's going to be champion by that time. He'll probably be on the card, maybe in a big singles match or in like a a tag or one of the triangle gate or twin gate matches. But yeah, I genuinely think he's going to be gone, like definitely before the end of the year, because like surely he was just a short time stint. Uh, I guess I'm mostly just basing that on the fact that if AEW wants to be serious, and I know that apparently their contracts are allowing for people to make outside bookings, but the whole point with Park was like he only went back to Dragon Gate because WWE couldn't satisfy him. And if he's found an actual competitor in the US where he's, been living for the last, like 5 years, why wouldn't he want to be there all time as opposed to having to constantly go back to Japan, back and forth, trying to be like a big guy in both promotions? It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's what I think is going to be what the future has in hold for both KZ and Puck. So just to conclude, the February 5th and 10th shows, they were both, all right shows. I gave them 6 out of 10. There's nothing, like there are really no bad matches on the show unless you like hate comedy or like, I guess really dislike the veterans and the youngsters working hard, but still being relatively average, The only real like blowaway match on these two shows was as you can look, what do you guys think? What match? I don't even need to say it, do I? I'm not going to insult your guys' intelligence by saying which match is the blowaway match that you must see. But it really was the only must see match. Like apart from that, the 8-man match on the February 10th show, that was decent, and also the KZ versus Yamato versus Doi triple threat, that was also pretty good, but nothing that you need to go out of your way from. So yeah, that main event, that's the one thing where you sit down and you say, I'm injecting this right into my head. Everything else, you can be like, it's all right. I just realized what I forgot to mention when giving my discussion of Park's future was the fact that Shun Skywalker came out to challenge him in the post-match. So look, Shun Skywalker, your 2019 just cannot get good enough, can it? So you win the rookie tournament, you get a big win over an established star in Ben K, and now you're challenging for the damn Dreamgate title, my dude. Like, we can't consider Skywalker a rookie anymore, can we? We can't consider him along the likes of UT and Hyo Watanabe and Yoshioka anymore. He has proven himself to be moving up the card, and obviously there's like a 99% chance that Park retains over Skywalker, probably even higher than that. This is just going to be a nice little match. I believe, when is this? I'll go over the matches and their dates eventually, but this is just going to be a nice little match for like, maybe a 1,000 to 2,000 arena, seating crowd. It's going to be fun. Skywalker's probably going to be really impressive because, look, Parker's a crazy high flyer, acrobatic. Skywalker is that as well. This could be a really fun like spot fest sort of match in the typical, car crash, as I love to say, the typical car crash style of Dragon Gate. So let's finish the show by looking forward to Dragon Gate's upcoming shows. So on March 2nd, and I believe all of these are going to be under the tour banner of the Champion Gate. So on March 2nd, we're going to have the Triangle Gate titles up for grabs, as we have the champions, Kanda, Yoshida, and Sakamoto, defending against the winners of the 3-man cup thing. I should have been using the actual name. I think it's like Aya Shinkini or something like that. Again, probably, a typical Western fan of pro wrestling saying, I totally butchered that Japanese word, but it's deserved. And this is going to be contested for by the maximum team of Yoshino, Doi, and Ishida. So look, I know that people aren't a big fan of this RED team holding the Triangle Gate titles. I actually thought they had a pretty good match at Final Gate, I've already gone on about how I think, like, my favorite wrestler in this RED team that we have as Triangle Gate champions is probably Yoshida, just because he mixes goofy with, like, genuine fun, bruiser, brawler, monster style, like, big moves and strikes. Kanda can be, like, I feel like Kanda's a decent all-rounder at times. And Sakamoto, as I've said, wasn't big on him outside of Dragon Gate, but here I think he's working well. He's another sort of all-rounder that I can enjoy at times. And obviously the maximum team, you've already got Yoshino and Doi. That's already like, a fantastic level of skill. And then you've got Ishida, who's like a great, up-and-comer rookie. So, this could end up being a good match. I feel like I'm a bit pessimistic. I feel like the RED bullshit is going to get in the way, and this is going to end up being like 3 stars, but this could easily be like, 3.5 stars. Maybe if they want to go crazy, this could be like 4 stars. If, Kanda and Yoshida really like pick themselves up. So, Then on March 3rd, we have 2 big matches. So we've got Big Ben, Shimizu, and Ben K defending the Twin Gate titles against UT and Kai. So that's going to be a rematch from this February 10th show. So, a match for the titles higher up the card. We probably get like a better display than what we saw on this show. And, this show, the display wasn't bad, but, it was pretty average, and I guess sort of plagued by Eita's interference at the end, which is what allowed Kai and UT to get the win. So yeah, I'd be really excited for this match. I think as long as there's no RED bullshit, which is funny because I just said that exactly for the Triangle Gate match as well. But again, if there's no RED interference bullshit, or at least if it's executed well, then this could be another really good match. Like, this is a match where I'm thinking, okay, this could easily be 4 stars, maybe even higher, because Big Ben, they always work hard. Kai, he's been working hard, establishing his own little unique style in Dragon Gate. And UT, I mean, you guys know that I've been going on about UT for like basically the entirety of this review. I think he's awesome. Big match opportunity for him. Let's hope he delivers. Again, this could be a really great match. Also on that March 3rd show, we're going to have Puck defending the Dreamgate title against Shin Skywalker. You've already heard my thoughts on that. I think this is going to be a great match. This is like the sort of match where I'm like, okay, I guess even more so than the Twin Gate match from before. This is like, okay, the baseline here has to be 4 stars. This should be a total, like, acrobatic, high-flying extravaganza. And if it's not at least 4 stars, I'm going to be super depressed. No, that's a bit far. I'm going to be super disappointed. It's like depressed, like I'm going to stop eating, going to quit my job, keep away from my friends. Hey, maybe I will end up that way, but I don't think so. Then we have 2 other, pretty big matches on the March 7th show. So the first big match is going to be Dragon Kid versus Naruki Doi. So are we going to get a payoff to the maximum breakup angle before we get a payoff to the RED breakup angle? Because, finally Dragon Kid and Naruki Doi, they're going to face off in the ring, you're going to have at it, they're going to work out their issues, hopefully they'll fight and they'll be friends at the end. I don't think that's going to happen, or else, why would Dragon Gate spend all this time building up the story of, Dragon Kids being annoying to Maximum if it's just going to be like, oh, they're friends afterwards. So I guess trying to think to myself, where do I think this is going to go? I feel like, I don't know, maybe we have Dragon Kid like get a cheap win, or maybe even he like cheats or uses interference to end up beating Doi, and then Dragon Kid ends up leaving Maximum, like announcing himself as like, oh, I'm too good for you guys, like, oh, you're not on my level, that sort of stuff. Or maybe we have Doi win and he really does accept Dragon Kid back into the stable. Maybe like maybe this literally was meant to be like a 1-month storyline. I'm not super interested in this. Like, I guess I'm only interested in the extent that like the stables get, switched up, because even if it's done poorly, even if like the storyline reasoning behind that is bad, I'm always interested in different, changing stables and tag teams. The other big match is the 4v4v4v4 match. There must be a better way to describe that. Like, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 16. I guess the 16-man tag match, but then you could think, oh, so it's 8v8 as opposed to 4v blah, blah, blah. Or maybe a 16-man 4-way match. That's how you describe it. So we're going to have Natural Vibes versus Tribe Vanguard versus Mochizuki Dojo versus RED. Look, I would go over all 16 wrestlers in this match. Oh, should I? Because I feel like I brought this up at the start of the review and I was like, oh, I'll go over them all at the end. Look, I'll just sit down and I'll read out the wrestlers in this match, just for you guys, okay? So in this 16-man 4-way match, we're going to have the Natural Vibes team of Horiguchi, Yashi, KZ, and Susumu, the Tribe Vanguard team of Yamato, Kagetora, UT, and Kai, the Mochizuki Dojo team of Minoura, Watanabe, Yoshioka, and Skywalker, and the RED team of Puck, Eita, Kanda, and Sakamoto. I hope you guys appreciate how I just read out all 16 competitors in this match, because that felt like an eternity for that, just listing them all off. But yeah, there's also another match which, I don't know how big this is because, hey, if you haven't heard, I'm Lewis and I'm not super familiar with Dragon Gate, but there's going to be a match between Ryo Saito, and Takuya Sugawara from 01. Now, I already don't know a large amount about Dragon Gate, and I know even less about 01, even though I'm trying to follow it. And I saw Sugawara on their Happy New Year show, and he teamed with Masato Tanaka against, oh god, some voodoo murderers team, and he was actually pretty good. So yeah, I don't know how he's going to pair up against Saito, because as I said earlier in this review, Saito's definitely positioned more as a comedy wrestler these days. I haven't actually gotten to see him as a serious wrestler outside of his one like decent match against Mochizuki at Final Gate 2017. So like, I don't know if there's history between these two guys. I don't really care enough to research it. I'm sorry, it's just like, this isn't like a big money match to me where it's like, oh, I've got to give the best analysis of this. I need to know this matchup and the history of both guys, upside and downside, in order to give the best analysis available. But look, that's also going to be on that March 7th show. I guess the main thing I'm getting from this is that Dragon Gate suffers from the same issue that New Japan has, where it's like, oh, we got all these big matches, let's spread them out onto like 3 different shows. And okay, I know you can't really do the 16-man 4-way tag match. You can't do that on the same show because then, well, I guess you could, but then you'd have all those other wrestlers defending all their other titles later on. But like, you could put the Twin Gate titles, the Triangle Gate titles, the Dream Gate titles, as well as Dragon Kid and Doi. You could, I mean, I guess you couldn't because Doi is also going to be in that Triangle Gate. Like, look, what I'm saying is you could have just one big show where you know it's going to be killer from start to finish, as opposed to like 3 shows where they're going to be like we know they're going to be like 6 out of 10 shows mostly, like most likely. Maybe that March 7th show and maybe that March 3rd show, maybe they have a chance to be like overall good, but that requires all of those big title matches to deliver. So yeah, like, and I know Dragon Gate is a business. They have to advertise in different cities. They can't just put all their eggs into one big show. They like to spread it out. I understand the financial reason for it, but as a fan, it's like, damn, why can't I just have like a full on like 8 out of 10 show where it's like awesome title match, awesome special singles match? Why can't I just have that? Are there any promotions that really do that anymore? I guess like maybe. I was going to say Noah because I feel like they're more likely, like they're not going to spread out, they're not going to do like, what Great Voyage and Yokohama day 1, 2, and 3 all like over the course of like 3 to 10 days. They're more likely to be like, okay, we need to put everything on one card if we want to draw like even half the amount of people that we need to draw. And I guess against my reasoning, Noah doesn't even really draw that well when they do that, but that's for other reasons. Anyways, a little tangent there. This finally brings me to the end of this review of Dragon Gate's February 5th and 10th shows. I guess before I finish this, I should actually check. This was in fact called the Open the Truth Gate, wasn't it? Yeah, these were the 2 Open the Truth Gate shows that were televised. So yeah, we've looked forward to what Dragon Gate's matches are going to be in March, early March. I've given my predictions for what I think is going to happen for the, title scene, for at least the Dreamgate title going forward. Yeah, once again, check out that main event. Well, I don't even need to say that. I just need to say check out that match, because you guys know what match I'm fucking talking about. It really was as great as people are saying. Not as great as like 5 stars. Oh, why have I got to be negative at the end? Like, hey, it was great. It wasn't that great, but it was great. Look, guys, it was a great match. Definitely check that out. You can follow me on Twitter at PureGradePuro. That's PureGrade PURO. You can check out Pure Grade Pro-Res on Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube. Drop me a like, subscribe, and comment all that, lame shit that YouTubers and other people who make a living on like the internet always say. Yeah, like as I always love to say, start a discussion with me. I love talking pro wrestling. It doesn't have to be related to the promotion at hand. If you want to talk New Japan on this, episode, feel free. If you want to ask me random questions, just let me know. I'm all keen for it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for giving me the time of day. Really hope you appreciated my analysis. And I guess I'll see you guys next time when I review New Japan's New Beginning in Osaka show. And then I'll also see you when I review Noah's final Navigation for the Future show. So yeah, look forward to that. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace, goodbye, see yous later, goodbye forever, see ya.